What is going on, everyone? This is Drew Code Sports Talk, and I am your host, Andrew Wright. And over in his living room is my co-host, Cody Johnson. Cody.
Well. Welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. We are recording this on Wednesday evening. Hope you all are doing well. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. Don't forget to follow us on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all the fun stuff, and on Threads, but we're not as active on that one as the other ones. And then also don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and the podcast as well. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't give a special thank you and shout out to Kenny King Jr. for joining us last week. If you missed that episode, I don't know where you guys were at, but it was a fun episode. It is available on our website. It is also available on our YouTube channel, and you guys can listen on all the audio platforms. So highly recommend listening it. And again, thank you, Kenny, for joining us. I think that is all the housekeeping notes. All the other stuff is down below in the ticker, guys. But without further ado, Drew, man, how's it going? You look like you're doing homework.
Yeah, I kind of am. I'm trying to finish up our notes for this episode, but doing all right. Kind of had a rough start to the week. Our AC went out, so we had to get it fixed, and it was fixed yesterday. So we got to sleep in our house yesterday, which was nice. But the night before, we had to go sleep over at my in-laws. Not that that was bad. It was just, it was just unfortunate because you want to sleep in your own house. But, oh well. And then, worked until 6 o'clock today. So rushed over here, and we were busy at work, so I had no time to do notes. So I am right now cramming my homework in to get these notes done.
Yeah, and speaking of work, Brad is in the comments right now. He's saying what up, so I'm just replying back to him.
Yep, he's the only reason we're going up. We're going on live right now.
Yeah, we're pretty much an audience of one right now, but it's all good. Yeah. We can appreciate anybody that's joining us, so It's all good.
No, I do want to reiterate before we get into everything. I do want to reiterate thank you to Kenny King. Hopefully he watches later or is watching right now. We really appreciate it. It was so cool of him to even take the time to do it. We were such in awe of his professionalism and how nice he was. That was just really cool. So we appreciate him coming on. That was really, really cool. But Cody, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. Just working, and then obviously you and I actually got to spend the day basically together last Thursday, which was really nice. So our daughters are in the same gymnastics school, so we got to see each other's kids fall and have fun, and got a chance to do dinner. So got to hang out with you guys, and since then we've just been living the busy life, and Abby is preparing to head out to another city on Monday, so I'll be with the kids solo for the week again. And I got to tell you what, man, for those out there that like to do the dad stuff they're the ones taking care of the kids, man, it is such a hard job. I mean, I think, Drew, you've been doing it for the last few years, and it's amazing how you're able to accomplish as much as you are.
I mean, a lot of that is, I get help from my wife, my in-laws, my wife's whole family. They definitely help out a lot. So, that definitely does help whenever I need to get things done. The most challenging part first is to keep the house clean, but second is to set up babysitting. You got to coordinate with all kinds of people, and typically you want to kind of have a specific time. How long you're going to be gone and when you're going to come back. I'm lucky enough to have my wife's grandma, who is just always just leave them, here for 16 hours. We're good. She's always yeah, just leave them here. Don't worry about it. So, she's always very grateful and gracious to watch them. So, shout out to the whole family. It takes, when they say it takes a village to raise kids, it definitely does. Yeah. That is for sure. So that's the only reason I'm able to do half of the things that I do when I'm at home.
It was funny that the first thing you let off with is, making sure the house is somewhat in order. And I can tell you what, man, that ship sailed weeks ago. I mean, there's some times where I'm lucky to get the dishes done, let alone clean the house. And right now, the reason why my background is fuzzy is because it's not nearly keen enough to be in the shot right now. So yeah, that is definitely the challenge that I've found is and honestly, it's since I've been back to work for my vacation, which has basically been about a month now, is finding a routine to clean the house, do all the dishes, and then prepare for the night before of dinners or lunches, which is really hard because now that we are in summer break, my kids, they wake up whenever they feel like it. So there'll be times I don't hear from them until like maybe 1 o'clock if I'm lucky, because they've had a crazy evening or whatever. So that's just always a tough thing. And then trying to squeeze in workouts in between, man, has always been it's now becoming more of a challenge. Like, I've been having to do workouts at my job, basically, because we have a gym there, and that's the only way I've been able to get in workouts in between, make sure I don't fall off the wagon too much. But even still, it's hard to carve out time for all that because you got to juggle a lot of things around and stuff. And I'm essentially waiting until school starts so that way I can have a full-time babysitter back that's free of services and then have them go back and do all that so that way I can actually work peacefully.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, life is crazy. Kids are crazy. But you know what's even crazier is sports. What a segue. I'm really proud of that one. Anyway,
that was a good
one. So this is we really had to talk a lot of not had to, but we really wanted to talk a lot of Raiders with Kenny King. So a lot has passed us since we've done the show last, where how we normally do it, where we talk about anything and everything basically, basically what we have missed is, MLB trade deadline just ended technically yesterday. There's a lot of holdouts and signings in the NFL. Really, the NBA has kind of been somewhat quiet right now. Not too much is going on over there other than like the Damian Lillard thing, which is like at a stalemate right now. So, just some crazy stuff. I mean, we've seen, the playoff picture here in the MLB is starting to kind of shape itself. The women's national team is playing in the World Cup right now, which it's looking a little sketchy right now. So, the Messi goal was freaking ridiculous. First game he starts and he ends it with a game winner. That was just crazy.
Yeah, Messi has taken over MLS soccer right now. So,
and I posted this on our Twitter feed, but I want to reiterate for those of you who don't watch soccer and go like, well, how come this American player doesn't play in the Premier League or doesn't play in La Liga? Go watch Messi and how easy he makes it look. And then you'll understand, MLS is nowhere close. Yeah. Like, MLS is better than what it used to be. It is nowhere close to the Premier League. It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Messi. First of all, that was a great goal. I was like super impressed. So anyway, lot has been happening since we've been talking about sports kind of regularly.
Yeah. All right, Drew, you ready to kick off with some Drew takes?
Sure. Go ahead.
All right. So
not really, but
no. Okay. So
no, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Do you want me to start or not?
Yes, just start it.
All right.
But I'm just kidding. Just wanted to mess.
All right. So the first Drew take question here is, reports earlier today came out that the NFL is considering adopting the XFL's kickoff rules. And for those that don't know, the XFL, what they do is they do their kickoff at, I think it's the 30 or the 40-yard line, but their players are on the, I think it's the 15-yard line, and then the return team's players are on the 10-yard line, and nobody is allowed to move or engage until the kick returner receives the kickoff and then begins their running motion. That's when everyone can engage in blocking or attempting to tackle the kick returner. So, Drew, what do you make of the NFL considering adopting that new kickoff rule?
I don't know. I may surprise you with this answer, but I actually don't like this rule. I really don't. And the reason is it works in the XFL, and got to be perfectly honest. The XFL, it's not as good as the NFL. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. And the NFL is the more dominant league. So you kind of have to create a little more excitement in the XFL than you do in the NFL. Whereas in the NFL, you get guys who are return men. Yes, we don't see it as much. We don't see a lot of returns, but at the same time, you do see guys, the more talented guys, still able to score touchdowns. And I kind of feel like it's more catering to just they're trying to score more, which I get, but I feel like the rules are already geared towards offense anyway, where you don't really need to add this. Now, if the XFL starts getting really big and starts, getting in some crazy numbers, then I think the NFL should at least think about it to create a little more excitement in the NFL. But overall, I just think you're taking away from the NFL game. The XFL, it works, like I said, because you don't have as talented players as you do. I mean, they're still very talented. I'm not saying they're not, but what I am saying is, obviously the NFL is at a top tier, where the XFL is, a second tier. Sometimes I would say at a third tier, depending on which college team you're watching. So
yeah,
I just kind of would say I wouldn't do it. I think you don't really get to show how talented you are as a returner, where you get rules where these guys really cannot move until you move. You have to find holes a little bit harder than you would if you were in the NFL, because in the NFL it eventually breaks down before you even get the ball at times. So I kind of get the other side of it, but I just feel like there's no need for it right now.
Yeah. Well, I know that the XFL really, when they basically came to their third iteration, this is where The Rock purchased them and has now developed it to where it is now. I know that the XFL has basically labeled itself as a developmental league. So eventually what they want to do is they want to be a league that tries out the new rules and, then have the NFL decide if they like them or not. I can give or take the kickoff rules only because I kind of agree. Like, the kickoff is like this fun thing that, at any moment you can get a return. I think it makes it really hard for the XFL rules just because, it kind of shrinks the field a little bit and returns are a little bit harder, even though it's safer. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
A rule eventually I'd like to see them adopt is the point after scoring conversions, because you can go for 1 point on the 1 yard line, or you can go to the 2 yard line for 2 points, or I think you can go all the way out to like the 10 yard line for 3 point conversion, which is really interesting in the XFL. And there's actually been a couple of teams that have done that. I wouldn't mind seeing some sort of variation of that in the NFL. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But the kickoffs, I think it's a little tougher just because, the NFL is kind of already making kicking game like non-existent, and this would almost further it. So.
Yeah. And with the numbers too, with how everything has been going, like, a lot of teams go for 2, or a lot of teams go for it on 4th down rather than settle for the field goal, where it used to be where you just like, if it's a 45 plus yard field goal, sometimes you're just like, I think you're putting the other team in the midfield, just kick the field goal. You feel like your field goal kicker can make it most of the time. So, whereas now it's more geared towards like, these, I'm sorry, my son is like watching Coco Melon. He is so hyped right now. But anyway.
Who isn't hyped for Coco Melon?
Yeah. I don't think anyone is as hyped as my son gets. But anyway, I just feel like now a lot of more teams are like, let's go for it on 4th down. Let's go for it on 4th down. Doesn't matter like how many yards it is. It's just like they play the numbers game. This should be successful, 65% of the time. So you're gonna take those odds over the field goal. So I just feel like with the kickoff, right now we don't really necessarily need to fix that. I mean, really, there's not too many kick returns in the NFL anyway. So I feel like too, you get better field position if you're doing that as the offense. And again, like I said, offenses are favored in the NFL rules, where they're just going to drive down the field with a lot less yardage and a lot less time. I don't know. I don't think it helps.
I gotcha. All right. What were your thoughts on the MLB trade deadline that just passed? And I will also include the trades that happened before the deadline. Of course, we're not talking about specifically the ones that happened the day of, but ones that happened beforehand. What'd you take of them?
Well, the biggest winner of this trade deadline is the San Francisco Giants getting AJ Pollock. I mean, the man, the myth, the legend.
Right.
AJ Pollock hitting a whopping 174. I mean, good Lord. Is anyone going to stop this guy?
Might want to intentional walk him.
So, well, that's a big shout out to my brother-in-law Diego. He when AJ Pollock was with the Dodgers, his dad, my father-in-law, never liked AJ Pollock. He hated him on the team, wanted him off, and Diego always wanted him. He was like, Dad, how can you say that AJ Pollock is not worth it and blah, blah. So they would always get an argument. And I was always on my father-in-law's side. I was like, AJ Pollock is trash, dude. I'm sorry. And of course we trade for him. So I immediately messaged Diego. I was like, the man, the myth, the legend. He's a San Francisco Giant. He was like, well, he's washed now. And I was like, you can't even let me have one.
Yeah.
Come on, kid. But anyway, no, I mean, listen, first of all, the Giants thing, I don't understand why they made the trade. I get that they were trying to go for depth and experience. And I mean, yeah, AJ Pollock is that. But at the same time, what Diego said, I mean, he's kind of washed. He's not what he used to be. And even Brad told me this today. I mean, he couldn't even make it on the Chicago White Sox, who are struggling to win games, who don't have, could use any kind of bat that they possibly could. So, it's a little unfortunate. I don't know why they went for it, but they did it. They didn't really have to let go of anyone. So I guess that is a plus there, but it is what it is, I guess. But man, the Rangers are going for everything. And it kind of makes me think, like, we're starting to understand why Bruce Bochy went to Texas, because now he's with a GM who's willing to make these big trades, who's willing to go after, a Max Scherzer, who I did not think was going to go to the Rangers at all. And I'm kind of surprised that Verlander went back to Houston. That is a little surprising as well. I would have loved to have seen the Giants go after guys like that, where it might entice Ohtani to come to your team a little bit more. But overall, listen, honestly, the reason the Giants didn't go after all these guys is none of the NL West teams went after any guys. I mean, the Dodgers didn't really make any moves. I mean, they made a couple, but nothing like big splash. The Padres, they got Ji-Man Choi and I forgot who else. It was a picture. I can't think of who it was, but they went after, a couple of guys, but nothing like huge, nothing like you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they got them. The Rockies were sellers, which is no surprise. The Diamondbacks didn't get anybody. And then the Giants really didn't go after anybody. So it is a little strange that the NL West is really just like, we're not going after this. So I don't know if it's they know something that no one else does, or if it's more of, we don't think we can take the bigger teams, or if it's more of we're trying to save money for a certain someone to come over to our team. But either way, it was actually a really strange MLB trade deadline, minus the minus the Verlander and Scherzer. I mean, nothing really too shocking or huge, in my opinion, really happened in the trade deadline. I mean, I know there's going to be baseball purists who are going to be like, well, what about this guy and that? And listen, I don't think it's as big of a splash as like Scherzer and Verlander, who literally just signed huge contracts with the New York Mets and completely being sold the same year that they just signed. So it's a little strange.
I feel bad for Mets fans out there that were riding the high tide of like, oh, we're gonna, we're World Series contenders, or we're at least gonna get in the playoffs, and then pretty underwhelming season, and then you sell off your two best pitchers that you forked over a lot of money for. And I tweeted out, I think it was on Sunday or Monday, when the news broke about Verlander that basically Houston let Verlander walk and the Mets then gave him back and at the same time paid him a substantial raise that Houston doesn't have to. Because I'm assuming the Mets are eating some of the salary when they traded him over back to Houston. So this is interesting. And now it gears up Houston to be a dangerous team, which they always are in the postseason. So I'm curious to see what happens with them. But man, if you're a Mets fan, I am so sorry for you guys. You guys had high hopes, and I think I saw something that said that the Mets aren't going to, or the GM of the Mets said they probably won't be competitive until 2025 or something along that, something along those lines. And I thought, man, that is heartbreaking. So,
I mean, I guess the Carlos Correa thing really messed him up. I don't really understand. I mean, they went after, like, what would they have done with Carlos Correa? I mean, first of all, he's still not hitting very well. And secondly, like, they're not winning. So would they have traded him to, I mean, it's kind of I think it's a very good question. And like, I don't think they're going to be able to afford Ohtani.
Yeah.
I mean, you can maybe make the argument that maybe this does release them of the contracts that they, gave to these guys. But like you said, they have to be eating some of this because they just signed Verlander this year. So
yeah. And they were like really high deals, weren't they?
The Verlander one for sure. I don't remember what the Scherzer one was, but yeah, the Verlander was ridiculous. He just came off of Cy Young. So it's
but he was like, isn't he 42, right?
No, I think he's
40.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an older pitcher, and anyways.
But he looked like he was. I mean, last year he looked like he was he was still the most dominant or one of the most dominant pitchers in the game. And
not while on the Mets.
Exactly, and it's got to be something with New York. I don't know if it's their pitching coach, if it's their manager, if it's just maybe the pressure of New York.
Yeah.
But it's. Man, I don't know. It's very Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
they're gonna.
I don't know. Verlander. Verlander only had like 3 years. What's going to be
still,
crazy?
It was like $100 million, wasn't it?
I think it's something close to that. It was something ridiculous.
They're gonna have to parse it out $2 million for like the next 40 years or whatever to pay it off.
So. We'll see. Man, those Mets, man, they just can't get it right, unfortunately.
I know. If you've got a Mets fan in your life, give them a hug because they're not doing well right now. All right, Drew, it's time for your Power 5, sir. It's been a week. It's been a couple of weeks since you've done one of these, so I'm wondering how different it was from the last time. So why don't you blow us away with your top 5?
All right, at 1, I have the Atlanta Braves. No explanation needed.
Yeah, no
Best record in baseball. They are absolutely rolling. Their run differential is a plus 159, and their schedule, I mean, is pretty average. The remainder of the schedule, so I think they're going to be fine, and they're definitely going to be in the postseason. Number 2, this actually might shock a few people, but I actually have the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm not giving up on them just yet, even though they are second in the AL East. They have a better run differential than the first place Baltimore Orioles. I trust Tampa Bay a little bit more than the Orioles. They're starting to get healthy. They have Tyler Glass now. They just got Shane McClanahan back. The hitters have kind of slowed down, which is kind of what I was saying all year. I don't see them hitting the way they have been, but they are still a very good team, a very talented team. And they're going to be facing Detroit the next few games. So, this is still going to be a very dangerous team. I expect them to be in the postseason race, obviously. But Toronto, Boston, New York, they're all still around there. Baltimore is first right now. So, that AL East is going to be fun to watch down the stretch. So, but I'm going to put Tampa Bay ahead. Number 3, I have the first place Baltimore Orioles. Like I said, I trust the Rays a little bit more. The Orioles, I still think, are a little too young for my liking, but they're getting healthy. They got Ryan Mountcastle back, who's been on an absolute tear since he's been back. Adley Rutschman has kind of slowed down hitting-wise a little bit, but he's still very solid behind the plate, so, he's not going to lose any time. The pitching is what I'm still a little worried about. They have been pretty decent with their starting rotation. Their bullpen, I worry about. But I just still think that Baltimore is still a little too young, a little inexperienced to have them in the top 2. But, the record says, they're a really good team, and it's kind of hard for me to try and keep them out. So they're at number 3. I have the Texas Rangers at number 4. I actually wanted to put the Dodgers over ahead of them, but the run differential got me. I had to get Texas above them. I'm very shocked at what they've done so far, and now they have Max Scherzer to add to that. This is a very scary team. Although adding Scherzer is a huge boost, I still am slightly worried about that bullpen. But overall, their hitters I'm not sold on completely yet. But I do feel like Texas is going to be a team to reckon with, but in the postseason, that's when I'm going to really worry about them. But as of right now in the regular season, really they're fighting Houston and Seattle and technically the Angels. I think the Angels, the way they look today, it was awful. Brad and I were watching the Angels and Braves, and Giolito, one of the guys that the Angels just traded for, he absolutely gave it up. And it got worse and worse as they pulled him out. So it was just a very big downfall there for the Angels today. But with Ohtani and then Trout should be coming back, I think late August. It'll be interesting to see how the Angels can finish. But their run differential is really bad. It's a plus 17. Wow. So, but Seattle, they're still in the mix. I still don't trust them. So really, that's why I say the Rangers are fighting Houston, and I really like the Rangers roster over Houston. And I think the way that the Rangers play is a little more sustainable than the Astros right now, at least to get in the postseason. We'll see. I would trust Houston more in the postseason still. That's because of the experience. But right now, the Rangers, they look really good, and honestly, I put them at 4 because they just got Max Scherzer, and that run differential is still really good. And Brad, I couldn't agree more. Baltimore is the Cleveland of last year. I think so. I think they're just not ready. And at number 5, I almost did put Houston, but I'm gonna show some love, and I don't need to, but I'm gonna show some love to the Los Angeles Dodgers. We were very low on them after they had fallen behind. I think they were at one point in 3rd place in the NL West, behind Arizona and San Francisco. But they are a big-time consistent team. They are continuing to get these wins. Their schedule actually is pretty lax right now. Right now they're facing like Oakland and, of course they're going to face like the Padres, but they've actually been kind of owning the Padres this year. The Giants games are going to be fun, but they pretty much own the Giants too. I think the Diamondbacks are the team that they would really have to worry about, but then when they face the Rockies, I'm not too worried about that. So listen, and I put them over Houston because that one little stat that I love so much is that run differential plus 92. Listen, like I said, and I've said all year, it's impressive that they basically have done this without Kershaw, who is constantly injured now. They've done it without Walker Buehler, San Francisco has been kind of nipping at their heels a little bit, and the Dodgers do not waver at all. This is a very strong team. This is a very experienced team, and they know what they need to do. They know when to turn it on. They know when to turn it off. This is a very well experienced team. I like them a lot as a baseball club. As a fan, I hate them so much, and I hope they lose it all. I hope they just lose the remainder of their games, but it's not going to happen. Listen, realistically, the Dodgers are probably going to win the NL West unless all of a sudden San Francisco turns it on even more, or Arizona. But Arizona's starting to fall back a little bit, which is what honestly Clark and I predicted. We said that we don't think they're going to sustain it, and right now they're starting to you're starting to see them slip through the cracks a little bit. I mean, San Francisco and Arizona are playing right now, which I don't have the score, but I'll get that up right now because now
it's 4-2, top of the 8th with 2 outs as of right now.
Giants ahead.
So if they can hold tight, then they'll they'll essentially be at 60 wins, but Dodgers are up right now 8-1 on the Oakland A's. So,
all right. So So one more time for me, I have the Braves at 1, the Rays at 2, the Orioles at 3, Rangers at 4, and rounding out the top 5 is the Los Angeles Dodgers.
All right. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Yeah, I'm actually proud of you that you didn't put Dodgers at like second or something like that, just because I know that technically there are rivals, but I think because you're married to a Dodgers fan, you kind of give them a lot of love that I don't think they deserve. But hey.
Well, let me tell you this. Let me argue this. Are the Dodgers always in the postseason?
They are.
They are. So people can get mad at me. They can say, "Oh, they're always in the postseason. They're always in the push for the World Series." I mean, the facts are facts. I hate it. I'm a Giants fan. Yes, my wife is a Dodger fan, but if I said that the Dodgers were last place, my wife would expect that. Me putting them in the top 5, she understands that I can actually respect a baseball team, and so that's what I do. I respect the teams that deserve it. So,
all right. Well, moving on to our annual segment, Drew, you want to take it over from here?
Absolutely not, sir. I'm just kidding. So do you want to start AFC or NFC?
Let's do the good old AFC. I think that one will be fun because I don't know about you, man, but I struggled trying to come up with who I thought was going to take away that division. And I don't know if you felt the same way, but I feel like it's going to be a lot more competitive in the AFC North this year. So
yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
I feel that way. I will say this. I'm very low on Cleveland.
Yeah.
I'm actually not high on them like I normally am.
Yeah.
The way that Deshaun Watson played last year kind of concerned me.
Mm-hmm.
And defensively, even with Myles Garrett, I'm a little hesitant on this team this year. And their receivers, I'm not like super into.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little concerned about the Browns. So I'm actually surprisingly very low on the Browns, and I think I'm pretty high on the Steelers. So
yeah, you know what? If I had to summarize it, I'm not terribly low on the Browns, but I don't think they're going anywhere. And Steelers, I think they're going to be much improved from last year. And I feel like that this division is probably going to be the most competitive of the bunch. I think that they're solid teams. They're just one has got to be last place, and there's only going to be one first place team. So it's kind of, each game is really going to matter within these teams and the division games nonetheless as well. I think those are going to be super pivotal as well. So
yeah. And also I have noticed that there's going to be a few teams that I'm probably going to have it like 15-2, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to change that. So not in this division or the next division, but I can see in future I'm kind of like, oh, this is a win easily. Oh, this is a win easily, and then I'm like, dude, they have to lose at some point.
Yeah.
So I can kind of foresee some interesting things that I'm gonna have to kind of maneuver. So.
Yeah, same. All right, so let me just kick us off here. I'm going to go 4-1. So I'm going to go fourth place to first place. Fourth place, I have Cleveland Browns. I have them with an 8-9 record, losing record. Yes. Okay. Here's why, though. I think that they have a okay defense. Nick Chubb, I think, is elite. I think that they have a good offensive line.
You are so in love with Nick Chubb. You are so in love with him.
He's consistent. I don't know what else you want him to do. He's consistent. Anyways, and I agree. The Deshaun Watson thing bugs me, and I don't think Stefanski is going to last after this season. So I have Pittsburgh at number 3 at 10-7. So I think that they are going to be improved from last year. I think with their receivers, I think they're going to be improved. Their defense, I think, is going to be better and healthy. And I think they're going to be extremely competitive. They may not be great on the road, which is majority of their games to me are going to be on the road that they lose and to good competitive teams. But I feel like Pittsburgh is at least going to be 500 and maybe making a wild card push. Number 2, this is going to probably shock you the most, Drew. I have the Cincinnati Bengals at number 2.
What?
Yes, but hold on.
Keep going.
Don't get your knickers twisted here. I got him at 11-6. So I think Joe Burrow having the calf injury does change a little things. He will be healthy by the regular season from all accounts. I just think that they have a very competitive schedule. I mean, they open at Cleveland. They are on the road to the Ravens in week 2. They've got to play in San Francisco. They have a Thursday night in Baltimore. They got to play at home against Jacksonville. I just think they have a really competitive schedule with some competitive teams that I think have improved. And I think the Bengals are a good team. I think they're a potential playoff team, maybe even wild card, depending on how schedules play out in injury. But I have them finishing the division number 2. And so number 1, I have the Baltimore Ravens finishing number 1 at 11-6. I have them tying, but I have them taking the division. I love that they signed OBJ. I feel like they did a lot to address some weapons. I feel like he's going to elevate that offense. And I think Lamar Jackson is going to have a very good season coming up. And I just feel like Baltimore has this, this energy about them that has rejuvenated them. And I feel like that their defense is going to be better. I feel like that it's going to motivate the offense. And I feel like Baltimore is going to be a team in the AFC and specifically in the North that is going to surprise a lot of people. And I think that it's going to be their year in this division that year. So that's what I have in the North.
All right. So I will do what you did. I will go 4-1 here. So in 4th place in the AFC North, I have the Cleveland Browns. Like I said, I'm very low on them. I have them at 5-12.
Wow.
Yes. I could see how they could get to 8-9. So I'm not saying that I think that my prediction is completely right, but just looking at the schedule and how things would go, I think there are some times where they could play down to the competition, where they should be, playing how they normally play, and I can just see some easy losses, and then all of a sudden it starts slipping away because there's a stretch where they're like away for one. I want to say it was like. I guess it's only 2 weeks. I'm sorry. But it's like they face Denver and the Los Angeles Rams, which I think are 2 very tough places to play. And then they have to face Jacksonville after that. That's week 12, 13, and 14. So that's a pretty tough ask just right then and there. And then also in week 11, the week before they play Denver, they play Pittsburgh. So it's a pretty tough schedule. So that's kind of why I'm very low on the Browns, is mainly because of how the schedule is working out for them. I don't think it's going to go well. So that's why I have them at 5-12. I have Pittsburgh at number 3 with 8-9. Like I said, I'm pretty high on them. I think they are a very good team.
Hold on. You think 8 wins is high for them?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Mike Tomlin. Okay, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But number 2, I have Baltimore Ravens at 10-7.
Okay.
And then at number 1, I have the Cincinnati Bengals at 11-6.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like 15-2 or something.
No.
Okay. So,
I told you it wasn't this division.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'm hung up on the Steelers. So you don't think that they're going to win more than 8?
I don't, because I do feel like this division is very strong. So most of this division is pretty much splitting games.
Yeah, same.
They start their season off with the 49ers, so I think that's an ultimate loss. I think they beat Las Vegas. So I think they win against the Browns in week 2 because it's in Pittsburgh, so I feel like that's just a win.
Yeah.
Week 3, they go to Vegas to play the Raiders. I think that's a win for the Steelers. Week 4, they go to Houston. I think it's actually a loss. I do think that after playing the Raiders, they might be on a high, but it's 2 weeks in a row. I feel like Houston can get one on them where they don't see it coming. Week 5, they play Baltimore in Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh. So I think they'll get the win there. Then they get a week off, and then they face the Rams.
Yeah.
I almost put that as a win for them, but I just feel like it's in LA. They are coming off of a bye. I could see them winning this game, but I just kind of wanted to give the Rams the win on this one just because it is in Los Angeles. And that's usually kind of one of my deciding factors. And I believe in Stafford more than Pickett, and that's kind of a tiebreaker for me. Then they face Jacksonville in Week 8. I think that's a loss. They face Tennessee in Week 9 in Pittsburgh. I think that's a win for them. Week 10 in Pittsburgh against Green Bay, win. Week 11 at Cleveland, loss. Week 12 at Cincinnati, loss. Then they come home and play Arizona. I think that's a win. So New England they face. I think New England can get them. Win against Indianapolis. I think they win against Cincinnati, and then they lose against Seattle and lose against Baltimore to end their year.
So Brad said that Pittsburgh and Cleveland are going to tie in their first meeting.
It seems like it happens every single year. Every single year.
So this is kind of
fun. I just feel like there's a lot. I gave like I could see the New England game swinging. I could see the Seattle game swinging. I honestly could see Arizona. I could see them losing to Arizona at some point. Like Arizona just gets one on them because they were away, and then they get home, and so they kind of relax, and all of a sudden they lose. So I can see how some of these games could get switched, but my first initial feeling, my process that I go through, I just feel like Pittsburgh, I don't think a lot of people look at Pittsburgh and go, this is going to be a great team. I think they look at Kenny Pickett and go, he's all right. He's fine. Yeah. He's not Ben Roethlisberger. He's not Mason Rudolph. So
that's a fact. Yeah.
There could be some good wins here. I could see a way where Pittsburgh could get in, but I really do feel like this AFC North is really tough. I mean, Lamar Jackson is still in Baltimore. If he wasn't, I would have a different feeling about Pittsburgh. But Cincinnati and Baltimore, those I had to have them in my top two, and this is kind of how I figured I was going to have the AFC North. What I do is I normally kind of write down who I think is going to be first, second, third, and fourth, and then I ultimately write who I actually have, and it came out how I thought it would. So to me, this isn't really a surprise, but I don't know.
Okay. I love how 2 years in a row you picked Baltimore to win the division and I picked Cincinnati. And now this year we flopped that because I picked Baltimore winning this division.
Because I keep getting boned by Baltimore. I keep forgetting that Lamar Jackson gets hurt every year. So,
well,
but I will say this. I'm going to put a pushback on. You were saying that Joe Burrow, the calf injury might say. The guy had offseason surgery last year, looked awful for the first 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden was just like Joe Burrow again. I don't think a calf injury is going to really do that.
So let me just say, I don't think that Joe Burrow is going to lessen his play. I just think they were off to a slow start last season, and he had, off-season surgery. He made it into week 1. It was just they came out slow. I feel like they're going to come out slow. I also don't know what their run game is going to look like because Joe Mixon may have just gotten a 1-year extension, but he didn't play very well for most of the first half of the season. I think that they're going to be a very good and competitive football team. They're going to be contenders, but I just don't know if in the early part of the season, they're going to do as well as people say they should. I have them losing on the road to the Browns and losing to the Ravens, but I have them then following that on a 4-game winning streak, and then their next loss comes from in San Fran, because I think San Francisco's defense is really, really good, and they have a really explosive offense, and I don't know if the Bengals have an answer for their explosive offense. But again, we're predicting schedules here with no information outside of what we know of as of today. So this could all look like nothing. The Bengals could go 16-17-0 before we know it, or they can go 0-17. That's just basically what we're working with. But I just think that they're going to be a slow start, and then they'll pick it up. They're going to do what the Bengals do, and they're going to be competitive. I just think that, they're still going to win 11 games, which is what you have, but I just think that Baltimore is going to be right there with them, and I feel like Baltimore has addressed a lot of their weapons issue, and I think their run game is going to be better, and I think that they are going to make a push for the North, in my opinion. So,
all right, interesting. Yeah, I think they're going to be around there. I think they're definitely going to get
wild card spot. Well,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that yet because I haven't done all my predictions yet.
Same. I don't want to
So we'll
predict
see,
who's a
but
wild card or not a wild card yet.
I think they're at least in the
idea.
running. Yeah, I think they're at least in the running. And for you Giants, you Giants fan who are listening, Giants won 4-2.
Woo-hoo.
So there
Nice.
we go.
All right, Drew. So I kicked off the AFC. Why don't you kick off the NFC?
No.
Wow, you're very combative tonight.
So it's Brad's fault. I'm very low on this division. I thought I would be a little bit higher.
Yeah,
but
same.
I'm kind of like, I don't know, with this division, I'm kind of like, I don't trust Minnesota. I don't trust Detroit. Green Bay, I don't really trust now without Aaron Rodgers. Chicago,
I would not be
trust.
surprised if you tell me that every team has a losing record in this division. I would
No,
not be surprised.
no, I don't have that. I do not have that. But I'm just not high on all these teams. I really am going to be, again, Brad, I'm very sorry, but I'm really going to be rooting for Detroit this year. I think it would be so cool to see Detroit in the postseason. I think it's well deserved. I think, how Dan Campbell, came in and everyone was like, this guy's an absolute joke. And he not only just came in and changed the whole culture of Detroit, but now everyone loves him. And everyone is like, dude, this team is like legit. This team it's hard to get on now. I'm really going to root for them. I know, Brad, the Bears, but the Bears suck. So where is not Ethan? Where's Clark when you need him?
Yeah.
He was super high on the Bears.
Yeah, he had them, I think, in the wild card.
Didn't he have Justin Fields, MVP contender?
You know what? I can't say that that's too much of a stretch. It just, I don't know. But anyways, why don't you kick us off?
All right. I'm going to go 1-4 because it's going to be easier doing it this way. So number one in the division is the 9-8 Minnesota Vikings. I think they are going to be in first place. Okay. I actually have Detroit Lions at 9-8 at 2, so I do think they are going to be tied for first. I just put the Vikings over because if I'm going to trust one or the other teams, I'm going to trust the Vikings a little bit more because they were a really good team last year. But I do think they're going to have a regression because we kept saying that the Vikings were not as good as the way they were playing, and it was a definite, oh yeah, we were right on that when they were out in the first round of the playoffs. So but all in all, I still would put the Vikings over the Lions right now. At number 3, this may shock you, I don't know, I have the Chicago Bears at 6-11. I do think they double their wins. I think they are going to get a little bit better. Their defense is really good, but their offensive line still scares me. I'm not completely sold on Justin Fields. I really like watching Justin Fields play, but he just has some mental breakdowns where it doesn't look great. So, I'm not sure I'm there yet with Clark, but I do root for him because I remember watching the QB1 show on Netflix, ironically, where it was following these top high school kids, and Justin Fields was on there, and I really liked him. I thought he was a definite team player. He's kind of this new age type quarterback kid, so he's got a little edge to him, but all in all, his guys really fall in love with him. I mean, you see it in high school, then you see it at Ohio State, and then you see it here in Chicago. These guys root for him, so I'm rooting for him as well. But I do think that unfortunately the team that he's around, I don't think is there quite yet. But he did gain a little bit more offensive weapons. But again, that offensive line really concerns me. And now I'm not really sure on the run game because they did lose. I don't think Montgomery is on there, who I think was more of their power back. So
yeah,
I'm a little concerned
Montgomery
about that.
Signed with Detroit, I think.
Oh,
okay. Was it Detroit? Yeah, I think it was Detroit. He signed with them in the offseason.
And then number 4, I have the Green Bay Packers at 5-12. I try to give them as many wins as I could, and it was really hard to find some wins. I'm not going to lie. This team
With Jordan Love, I really am rooting for Jordan Love because he's a kid who came out of the Mountain West, who played against. We watched against Fresno State. And he was really, really talented. So I root for him. I hope he's successful. He's had a lot of years under Aaron Rodgers. So unfortunately, as much as we should give this guy like at least a couple of years to see what he has, he kind of doesn't have that because he has been behind Aaron Rodgers for like 3-4 years now. So it's kind of like you got to put up or shut up. You know, it's one or the other. Right now, you're going to have to do something for Green Bay to stay the quarterback. So, but I do think that this team is a little too talented for them to just go over or like be the worst team in the league. I don't think they're there. But all in all, I do think that the Green Bay Packers are going to be the worst team in the division.
All right. Well, I don't really have too much to push back on you on. We pretty much, actually, no, we have the teams finishing the exact same order, just different records. So I'll run through it relatively quickly here. So I have Minnesota. I have them at 10-7. I do have them winning the division, but at 10 wins. So we're only a game off, so not too bad. Detroit, I have them going 9-8 as well. I don't know if I have them in the wild card yet because I got to finish the rest of this, but I have them barely squeaking by 9-8. I know that there's a lot of hype around them. I know that they're a fun team. I want to taper a little bit of expectation because we had the same feeling last year, and I don't know if they are better than they were last year, but I know that they're getting a lot of good pieces, and their defense is now changed quite a deal. They have new secondary. We'll see how their defense kind of shapes up, but knowing Dan Campbell, they'll be ready though. We'll just see if they're prepared and ready to take that leap. So we'll see. Number 3, I have the Bears. I have them at 8-9. So I did say when we were talking with Ethan and Clark that I wasn't sure if they were like a 9 or a playoff team win, but I think they can get 7 to 8 wins. I'd say 8 wins. I think they're going to scrap their way. Yeah. I think they're going to scrap their way to 8 wins. And I do think that Justin Fields will have a positive step forward. Now, here's the problem, though. Justin Fields is kind of behind everybody, let's say, because of the regime that was in, and then now his new coach and stuff is trying to get him confidence to throw the ball more down the field. Now he's got a little bit better of an offensive line, a new weapon in DJ Moore, so we'll see how that all plays out. But I do think that Justin Fields will take a step forward. I don't know MVP caliber step forward, but I think he'll be a very productive running back, and especially a dual threat because he was killing opponents with his legs last year. And I think now with, again, some offensive weapons, that'll change the dynamic. So, and I got to say, man, you were way higher on the Green Bay Packers than I were. I tried to find them as many wins as possible too, and I was only able to find 3. So I have them finishing at a 3-14 record. I'm rooting for Jordan Love as well. I just, with their young receivers, with their defense, Jordan Love's first year with Matt LaFleur's offense, I'm hoping that he has a productive year, but he's definitely going to go through his woes as a first-time starter. And, I wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay basically, tanks for Caleb Williams, because that's essentially what they'd be playing for. I don't think they're going to be very competitive at all this season. So that's what I have. So Minnesota Vikings 10-7, Detroit Lions 9-8, Chicago Bears 8-9, Green Bay Packers 3-14.
The only pushback I will give you is about the Packers, and I just feel like the Packers are going to realize maybe too late that Jordan Love is not going to be their guy, or they're going to see that, okay, Jordan Love is our guy, just not this year. And so that's kind of why I don't think they're going to be in the running of Caleb Williams. Not saying that I think you're like, you're
dead wrong.
You're absolutely wrong, and there's no way they're going after Caleb Williams. But I do feel like they really are trying to put everything into this year that they possibly can into Jordan Love without trying to sell the absolute farm. Because I think they've spent so many years with Jordan Love, and it's like, okay, why did we trade for him? We kind of have to show that we're in on him. So I just feel like it's going to be a little too late by the time they're like, okay, this is not going to work. And it's going to be like, well, shoot, we're already at 5 wins or 4 wins or something, and there's a team that only has 2 wins, so we're gonna have to lose every other game, and I'm not sure the other team can win a couple of games in that time. So just that's kind of my assumption. That's kind of my thought is I think it's going to be kind of the late realization of, okay, we're not going to get Jordan Love, or we're not going to get Caleb Williams. But I do also feel like there's a possibility that Jordan Love could actually work out really well. And maybe they're better than what we think they are. I don't think, unless Jordan Love is Patrick Mahomes, and if he is, we are going to be like, why in the hell was Aaron Rodgers not let go way earlier?
Sure.
So I don't think he's that caliber. So if that is the case, I just feel like there's going to be a couple of years where we're going to see Jordan Love in the Green Bay Packers uniform. But if we see that slow, okay, he's getting better and better, he's getting that experience, you're going to see the Packers, although may not be playoff potential type team, but I do think you will see them slowly progress and get better and better, and they're going to start getting they'll start being a good team towards the later years. But I think this next year they're not going to sniff the playoffs, no matter if Jordan Love is playing really good. I just don't think, if you have a Patrick Mahomes type talent, he's not sitting on the bench. You're not flirting with the idea of keeping Aaron Rodgers. You're going to be like, nope, we're good. See ya.
Yeah.
So I think his best is still not going to get this Packers team to the playoffs.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if the Packers traded for or found a way to acquire Trey Lance from 49ers at some form or fashion. Like, let's say Jordan Love doesn't work out. I would not be surprised if in the offseason next season, Trey Lance maybe gets dealt over to Green Bay. I mean, I'm not saying I know anything, but I would not be surprised if the Packers did that. So
how funny would it be if the Jets all of a sudden are like, you know what, we don't want Aaron Rodgers anymore, and Green Bay's like, we'll take him back.
Yeah. Oh, they probably would.
There's no way it's going to happen, but I was just thinking, like, that would be so funny. Just imagine the Packers like, come on back.
Yeah, that's so funny. All right, Drew. So I pitched this to you earlier this week, and I've been really excited for it. So fantasy football is around the corner, you guys. If you guys are not in a league, get into a league. Drew, our league is going to start in a few weeks, actually, both of our leagues. And I would not be surprised if I ask if you want to join a third league. So keep your phone on. But anyways, okay, good. So anyways, so it got us, me thinking of some creative drafts. And so I figured we would kick off some fun fantasy drafts. And tonight's theme will be drafting the best players that have never won a championship. Drew, we're going to go 5 rounds, and we're going to pick you're going to pick your best 5, and then we'll go in order. We're going to do a coin flip, so that way we see who gets the number 1 pick. So, Drew, call it.
Heads.
And we got a heads. So, Drew, you get the first pick.
Oh, my God.
And we're going to go snake order. So,
okay, wait. So, what are the sports that we have to stay within?
Basketball, football, baseball. That's it.
Basketball, baseball,
NFL, NBA, and MLB.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna start with a homer pick because I don't even know if he's even on your list.
Go ahead.
And this is my favorite player of all time in baseball history. Someone I always looked up to. I know people are going to give me hate because he was on steroids. Never confirmed, by the way. I'm going to go with Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds is the home run leader. Yes, I said it. He is the home run leader in Major League Baseball. I know Major League Baseball wants to put an asterisk on it, but they want to put an asterisk on everything. So anyway, this team should have the Giants should have won the World Series in 2002. They lost a lot of steam, and we absolutely died against the Angels. I remember watching it. Which shout out Central Valley, by the way. There was a guy named Troy Gloss who was on the Angels team. He actually just got signed as the head coach of the baseball team at Buchanan High School. So congratulations to the Central Valley and to Troy Glass for getting an absolute beast of a baseball program in the Central Valley and Buchanan High School. And if you don't know what Buchanan High School is, they're the guys who produced Justin Wilson, who won the College World Series for Fresno State as the closer, who ended up being a closer for a couple of years with the Yankees. He was a closer for the Cubs, the Pirates. I can't name all the teams that he's been with, but Justin Wilson, he's a product of Buchanan. There's actually a lot of other guys, but Justin Wilson's the only one that comes to mind right now. So anyway, so shout out to them. Anyway, Barry Bonds, my number one. Like I said, he's the home run leader. This guy walked more than he struck out. I don't think that's 100% accurate, but this is always been my argument that he is the first player and only player to ever hit 500 home runs and have 500 stolen bases in a career. He is the only player who has ever reached that right now. And the guy is not considered for the Hall of Fame. And again, I know, well, he was on steroids. Listen, he became a 500 guy before he came on steroids. He deserved better teams than he got in San Francisco. He should have won a championship. And he is one of those guys that I will forever be sick to my stomach that never won a World Series title, because this guy was the best we had ever seen at hitting the ball. I know a lot of people gush about Ohtani. Listen, Ohtani is fantastic, but Barry Bonds, this guy would hit 320 and hit as many more home runs than Ohtani, and he walked way more than Ohtani does. So he was the best hitter I've ever seen still to this day. He's absolutely ridiculous. Barry Bonds is my number one pick.
So funny story is I was actually going to pick Barry Bonds first overall if you just so happened to skip him, but couldn't put it past you.
No, you weren't.
No,
Don't
I
lie
swear
to me.
So funny thing is he actually was the inspiration for this draft. So because I had seen obviously the statistics on him, and truthfully, he was a Hall of Famer before he got to the Giants, and then he went to the Giants after Pittsburgh and just solidified himself. And the fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame is kind of boo-boo, but anyways, he was the inspiration of like players that have never won a championship. He was the first one I thought of, and I was like, oh, I bet we would have fun doing this little fantasy draft of that. So yes, he would have been my first pick as well. So okay,
I still call lies, but that's right.
That's fine. You can call whatever you want. It's whatever. Okay, so here's what's fun. I actually have like a list of like 20 something that I can pick from, so it's kind of tough to determine who I would
20
say.
guys that I wrote down because I'm the best.
I am. Thank you for recognizing that. So gosh, who do I want to go with? You know what? I think I'm going to go with a little homer pick as well, since you did one. I'm going to go with Tim Brown, Hall of Famer, of course, former Raiders receiver. I think he would be my first overall pick for one of the best players to never win a championship. He came close though with the Raiders in the 2002 season against Tampa Bay. He also teammates with Jerry Rice, and top 10 in all-time receiving, which we actually played a fun game with the backseat guys and found that out. So Tim Brown would be my first pick, and I will stand on that hill that it's a homer pick. So
it's all right, man. Honestly, it's a really good pick because he's one of the most underrated receivers of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't even know he was top 10, and we're like, oh crap. I can't believe we didn't forget about him.
Quietly,
but
the top 10.
He was so good for so many years. I don't hate that pick. I mean, hey, maybe because it's a homer pick, but I really love that pick. So good for you. All right, I'm gonna go with an obvious one. I gotta go with Dan Marino. Listen, Dan Marino, in my opinion, I think at times was better than John Elway, but he never had the teams that John Elway had. I think the arm talent was, I would say it's closer to Patrick Mahomes, and his body type was almost like a almost like a Ben Roethlisberger, but a little shorter, obviously not as fat, but he was a strong dude. I mean, he was never a skinny quarterback. He was always a big dude, and he took a lot of hits, and unfortunately, I'm going to kind of poo-poo on Miami right now, but unfortunately, he was in Miami.
Yeah.
So,
he was.
So
he was there for a long time.
Yeah, Dan Marino, I think it's a shame that this guy was so talented. It would be, in my opinion, right now, I think it would be like if Justin Herbert never won a championship. And I know as a Raider fan, that's like, oh, how could you? But listen, Justin Herbert is such a talented quarterback. Like, if he never wins, it's going to be kind of a shame. Hopefully he wins with another team other than Chargers, Chiefs, or Broncos. But if he does win one, hopefully he can win one in his career, because I think he's just so talented and just on an underachieving team. So I'm going to go with Dan Marino.
All right. Well, you went with an obvious one in the NFL. I'm going to go with an obvious one in the NBA. I'm going to say Charles Barkley. He's one of the top 50 all-time NBA players, and I don't think people realize how great of a player he was back then. I mean, he helped lead the Suns to the NBA Finals, ultimately lost to Michael Jordan. But, for a long time, he was like aggressive in the paint, rebounder, a scorer. He did everything for the Phoenix Suns for a long time. I believe he also teamed up with Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler in Houston for a little bit of time. But, a lot of people know him as an analyst, but people really underestimate how great of a player he was. So I'm going to say Barkley as my second pick.
Okay. So I'm going to stick with the NFL, because I'm kind of curious who your number 3 is going to be. I'm going to go with Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders
a great one.
Was my very favorite running back growing up watching football. I love watching Barry Sanders. He was something we had never, ever seen before. And now it just comes like, that's just what you're supposed to do as a running back now. Like, he changed the running back position. The dude was absolutely filthy. The Lions should have never, ever sniffed postseason play, or never sniffed as many wins as they did, if it wasn't for Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders was ridiculously good. The dude changed the NFL. I mean, forever. I was so sad when I heard that he was retiring, because I just felt like he was the best for so many years. Dude was shifty. Dude was fast. I mean, I can't remember a time where Barry Sanders was tackled on the very first tackle. Like, I just remember him always breaking the first tackle, whether it was for a loss or not.
Yeah.
It always seemed like every time he touched the ball, he never went down in the first tackle. It was always the second tackler. God, he was just, man, he was nice. And that's all I can say. He was just so nice. I'm going to go with Barry Sanders at 3 for me.
All right. So this one is a bit of I wouldn't say a reach. I'm more than happy to make this one, and I hope that you appreciate it, just because it'll kind of reminisce about our childhood. But I'm going to go with, it's a baseball pick, Ken Griffey Jr., the greatest swing in baseball. I actually remember him the most, seeing him with his backwards hat in the home run derby. And then he was so great on the Mariners. And then when he went to the Reds, still is great. And I don't know why, but he just has been ingrained in my childhood in terms of like a great baseball player, fun to see, very, very likable, very much the face of the league. And he has, without a doubt, the sweetest swing of all time, arguably, in all of the majors. And I think it's a shame that it's not a shame, but I'm really glad that there's a lot of great baseball players that recognize how great of a player he is. And it's just a shame that he was never able to get a championship. And I think one of the cool things too is when he was younger in his career, him being able to play some games with his dad when they were both on the Mariners. And funny thing is, I actually saw a clip today where it was, I think, when, I can't remember if his dad was playing for the Yankees or against the Yankees, and he told a story about how he's sitting in a dugout, and it was just him and another kid. And apparently George Steinbrenner told an attendant to get Ken Griffey Jr. out of the dugout because he didn't want anybody there. And Ken Griffey Sr. Took note of that, and so did Ken Griffey Jr. And so he told a fan that if every other team didn't want to sign him, but only the Yankees offer a contract, he said, I'd retire. I wouldn't sign with the Yankees no matter what. And I just thought that was so funny. And just a perfect synopsis of like Ken Griffey as he is in integrity. So
the son's absolutely going ham on Coco Melon. So I, with my number 4 pick, I'm going to go with maybe someone that you didn't have written down.
I think you're on number 3.
No, I'm on 4. I have Bonds, Marino, Sanders.
Oh, that's right. I forgot to write down Sanders. Okay, go ahead. 4.
So my number 4 pick is going to be, this might be another shocker, but I'm going to go with Tony Gwynn of the San Diego Padres.
Man, he was on my list. Okay, good one.
As much as Ken Griffey Jr. changed the game and is kind of what the players are now, Tony Gwynn was the purest hitter I've ever seen. I don't remember him striking out. I don't ever remembering him not getting a hit at least once in a game.
Yeah.
Now listen, I never watched the Padres every single day. I was a Giants fan. I always watched the Giants, but every time the Giants faced Tony Gwynn, he always was getting a hit. He wasn't the biggest like power hitter of all time, but he's one of those guys where he was the closest to ever come to hitting 400 that anyone has ever done, which was in 94. Yeah, 94, where he hit 394, which is just ungodly. I mean, and then like I always see a lot of videos coming up where Tony Gwynn was talking to kids on like how to hit, and like I'll watch those videos and then like I'll be playing with my son baseball and I'll be like, I'm gonna do what Tony Gwynn said, just kind of curious of what it looks like. And just it's amazing, just like the little things that he was able to explain to you, that he was able to tell kids or people or teammates, whatever it is, how to hit. And it's just like it seems so easy to him, but when he talks about it, you're just like, oh dude, this guy, oh my God, like he just knew how to get the best. Like this guy worked at it so hard. Tony Gwynn is one of those guys that I don't care if he was with a rival team. This guy deserved a championship. He was so amazing. He actually was really good friends with Barry Bonds for a long time because great recognizes great. And Tony Gwynn was one of those guys who just was in awe of what Barry Bonds could do, and Bonds vice versa. He was always in awe of what Tony Gwynn. Barry Bonds would always have interviews talking about, I could never do what Tony Gwynn does. I could never hit the way he does. It's ridiculous how he does it. Yeah. And Gwynn would say the same thing, and Bonds would just chuckle because he's like, dude, I could never hit 400. There's no way. And so it's just Tony Gwynn is one of the best players to ever play in Major League Baseball. I think he is so underrated. He's not talked about enough because he wasn't this power home run hitter. He was more of this base hit guy. But as a kid growing up, when you're learning baseball, these guys don't want you to learn how to hit home runs. They want you to learn how to hit base hits, line drives, find the holes. And Tony Gwynn was the guy to watch.
Yeah. So. That's a good one. All right. So my number 4, I'm going to go with Allen Iverson. You want to talk about someone who changed the game. I think in basketball, he made it a point to make your ball handling a strength. And, he's known for pound for pound being like the best NBA player just because he was not afraid of anything. He would go right to the rack. He'd also, had all these dribble combinations to where he'd get a mid-range shot. And, in the 2001 NBA Finals against the Lakers that had a ridiculous playoff run, they went, I think it was like 15-1 or 16-1. The one loss that they had was against the 76ers in that playoffs with Allen Iverson. I believe he had to score like 50 points or 49 points or something like that. But Allen Iverson made basketball essentially cool for those that grew up in, rough areas with the elbow sleeve, with the headbands, with the, I think he's the one that started like the compression pants and some other cool stuff. And not only that, but he was a phenomenal player on the 76ers. And then he got traded to the Nuggets and was a great player on there and helped him get to the playoffs when Carmelo Anthony was first in the league. So Allen Iverson is one of the great players that never won a championship. And he is number 4. He's my 4th pick on this list.
Okay, so my number 5, I'm actually between a few players, but I got to go a basketball player. And it's just a guy that I always rooted for, that I really liked watching play, even though he did end up on the Lakers, but I'm going to go with Steve Nash.
That's a great one.
Steve Nash was the newer age when I was, in high school. He was the newer age John Stockton.
Yeah.
We always killed John Stockton for not shooting much. Steve Nash would shoot, but he knew when to pick and choose when to do it. John Stockton, it always seemed like he was more of the guy who rather was seeking the assist rather than the shot. He was more the guy going to the mailman and Karl Malone. But Steve Nash, although, yes, he would defer to Amari Stoudemire a lot of the times, or Dirk Nowitzki, Kobe Bryant towards the end of his career and all that. Steve Nash was a guy who was just an all-time teammate. And I feel like we lost what he was capable of doing because when he was the coach for the Brooklyn Nets, which now we know it really wasn't his fault. Yeah. He really wasn't the issue there. I feel like we lost what Steve Nash really was, and Steve Nash was a absolute baller. The dude just made some insane plays, and it was just simple moves. It was basic moves that he just perfected so well that he knew who he was going to throw to, but you had to guess. Like, you didn't know who he was going to throw to. He knew what he was going to do, 10 steps before he was even across the half court line. And you just kind of had to guess what he was going to do. I think his ball handling skills was very underrated. To be a point guard in the NBA, especially then, where hand checking was still allowed, and with the players getting better and better each and every year, I think was very underrated. Now, he wasn't an Allen Iverson type ball handler, but he was a guy, I don't remember ever getting the ball stolen from him. I just feel like he was so good at keeping the ball, knowing how to get guys in the right spots. He wasn't the best defender, but he also wasn't that big of a liability. To me, Allen Iverson a lot of the times was a liability defensively in a lot of games. So my defer would be Steve Nash over him, even though I was thinking about putting Allen Iverson on there just because you're right. He changed the game. He absolutely changed the game, and he would fit today's game so well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm going to go with Steve Nash. I think Steve Nash was one of the players I used to love watching.
Yeah.
If he was ever on TV, I was always watching him because he was just he made things happen. It wasn't what he did. It's just that he played the game of basketball so well. He perfected just the small things so well that he made the game exciting. He was Chris Paul before Chris Paul.
Absolutely right. Okay. So this is a tough one because there is a bunch of players still that I can choose with the last pick. But I'm going to give a couple of honorable mentions before I do this. So got to give 2 honorable mentions, one to Ichiro. I think he's a player that we all grew up with, at least. Good player. And then Jim Kelly, I think we'd be remiss. 4 times going to the Super Bowl, not winning it. He's a player that, considered all time. Did you know that Ted Williams also never won a championship in baseball?
Yes, I did.
It's absolutely crazy.
Because of the the Black Sox scandal? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Also, Willie McCovey, excuse me, also another one of the players that's all time never won a championship in baseball. So I thought that was interesting.
Yes.
Anyways,
yes,
couple
but
honorable mentions.
I can't have 2 Giants on there. I'm saying that's just. That's not looking at everyone else.
Well, that's okay. So this player, then former Raider, I'm going to go with Randy Moss. I think he is one of the greatest receivers in NFL history. I think what was great is, in Minnesota, there was no one that was going to stop him. Absolutely no one was capable of stopping him or containing him. He then goes to the Raiders. He essentially had like a vacation for many of the seasons with us, did not produce like what we were hoping for. And that was kind of the dark ages of the Raiders. And then he goes to New England and basically rejuvenates his career, looks even better than when he was in Minnesota. And then, I think he carried on having a really great year. And, when he got older, he wasn't nearly as fast. He couldn't get off the line of scrimmage as well. But, I mean, no doubt he is one of the NFL wide receivers that changed the game, or at least how teams look at receivers. There's literally a segment on Monday Night Football called You Got Mossed that pays homage to him every Monday about, you going up there at the high point of the ball and taking it from a defender and, you stealing basically the catch and making a highlight. Like when you have a segment or a verb named for you in terms of like in your sport, I mean, all-time great, and unfortunately never won a championship, but he would be my fifth pick.
It's a good one. I would probably put Tony Gonzalez over him. Tony Gonzalez was just Mr. Consistent. Randy Moss had all the talent in the world, but Tony Gonzalez was on some really bad Chiefs teams, which thank God.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
he was so talented. The dude was just, you knew he was going to get, Travis Kelce numbers every time. Like you knew he was going to have 10 catches, over 100 yards. You knew he was going to have at least a touchdown in a game.
Yeah.
It was just a foregone conclusion. There was no way of stopping Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah.
So I would probably put him over Randy Moss. Not saying that's wrong, but I did respect Tony Gonzalez game a little bit more than Randy Moss, even though Randy Moss was phenomenal. I mean, God.
Yeah.
I just the Raiders year was a little disheartening.
Yeah.
It was a little disheartening, but God, when he went to New England and they had that 16-0 run where they were going into the Super Bowl undefeated, it was just like you felt like, oh, it's going to happen, and it was just a surprise that the Giants ended up winning that.
Yeah. Well, another player who I almost put on there, and I was literally 49-51, was Carmelo Anthony, and because he's somebody that I was like, man, he never won a championship, and he's like top 10 in scoring. He's won all these Olympic gold medals. He's the only player, I think, in the 2003 draft, along with, Bosh, Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Paul. So he's one of two that have never won a championship from that draft yet out of those predominant players. And, Chris Paul could have been another one. But, I was debating between Carmelo and Moss, and I just felt like when I was growing up, and then even, just recently, Moss has changed the game to where, players look up to him in the way he approaches the game and stuff. Like, if I'm not mistaken, Justin Jefferson, said that Moss was like a player he idolized growing up, and he plays very similar to him. He just, so it's just, he has still an imprint on the league that is rippling through all this time. And he's been retired and I think inducted in the Hall of Fame. So he still feels like he's a part of the game, even though he's been away from it for so many years. So
yeah. Randy Moss was absolutely ridiculous. He was
what they call a cheat code.
Yeah. He was 6'4" and just one of the fastest players in the league. I mean, just that's unfair to have a guy who's that tall and could run faster than most players. Just
and the way he ran was like effortless. It didn't even look like he was trying. He would just start his stride, and the next thing you know, he was 40 yards down the field with no one next to him.
I do think about too. There's I know that he went to Marshall, but he was going to, I want to say University of Miami, but I might be wrong. I forgot what college he was actually going to be going to, but then he got kicked out for some off the field issue. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he got kicked off, and so then he had to go to like junior college, and then ended up on Marshall because of his grades and whatnot. But like, I just kind of always think like if he went to it was a Power 5 school. I want to say it was Miami, but I'm not 100% sure on it. So, but if it was Miami, like I just am kind of curious, like if he went to Miami, had that college career, like he still would be a Hall of Famer. I don't see that ever changing. It's just like he probably wouldn't have gone to Minnesota. He probably would have gone to a different team.
Yeah.
And I just, I always think about some of those things every now and then, like, okay, what would have happened with his career if he was on this team or ended up going to this team. So I always think about stuff like that sometimes.
The college was Florida State. So
Florida State, yes. I knew it was in Florida. Yeah. And that was that school was and especially in that time
back then,
they were absolutely dominant. He would have been top 5 pick in the NFL draft if he would have went to Florida State for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, man. Let's go home.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you guys joining us. Big shout out to Brad for commenting on the video majority of the time. So big shout out to him, even though now he's probably sleeping right now. I don't know, maybe. But which I'll complain to him tomorrow because I got to see him tomorrow. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening and watching. We do appreciate it. Please follow us on all the social media sites, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. It's just it's going to be too much. But we're on all the major platforms, Threads, whatever it is. Go support us on all that. So please and thank you on that. If you aren't sure what I just said, you can go to drewcodesportstalk.com where you can see all of our social media sites and you can go follow us from there. Also, you can go to our YouTube page, subscribe, like, and comment on the videos. We always want to hear from you. We even on the social media sites as well, we always try and respond to as many people as we can. So thank you on that. I think we've been a little more active on social media of late. And that's because it's regular life again. There's no more vacations. There's no more, got to go out of town for this. It's just more of, kids got to go to school or starting to, back to work as usual. Can't really leave because we got things to do here. So it's starting to get to normal life. So I think we're going to be more involved in social media because we're not going to have other things to do. So anyway, go subscribe to all the major podcasts, which we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify. There you go. I knew I was forgetting one. So go follow us on all that and rate and review and comment as well. 5-star review would be preferred. If it's a 5-star, please let us know what you enjoyed. That way we can continue to get better. And if it is a 1-star, please let us know what you didn't like so that way we can improve on that. So anything and everything does actually help us. We just do this as a hobby. We know we're not getting paid for this. So if you give us a 1-star, we're not going to be coming after you. Be like, well, this person.
Speak for yourself.
Just gonna. Oh well, okay. Well, I won't care.
I will find you.
I'll just probably call you out as random person, like I normally do. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Random person.
There you go, random guy. So anyway, we appreciate all that. So Cody, I'm gonna have you finish it off. I know I probably missed a ton. But let you finish everything off.
All right. Well, just like Drew said, guys, you guys can visit drewcodesportstalk.com. While you guys are there, please go support our partners with FNX Fit. Use Drew Code 15 to get 15% off your order when you're ordering supplements, workout gear, or anything like that. I'm a frequent user of their protein powder, and I actually got it because Drew recommended it, and it is very, very good. So I recommend it. Go and grab some. And also, I do have a lot of their workout gear as well, like their merch, and it is good stuff. I work out with it all the time. You can ask Drew. I'm probably in it 90% of the time. So go check that out. Also, go to SeatGeek, download their app, or visit SeatGeek.com. Use Drew Code to get $20 off your first order when you're going to a concert or a sporting event. Especially with a lot of the stuff that's going on now, you're definitely going to want to capitalize on that opportunity. And then also, too, don't forget to go visit Fanatics. If you guys are Raiders, Giants, or any sport fan, there's a special link in our description of this episode. Click on that, begin shopping, and they have a ton of stuff going out right now. So definitely get that ready for football season, also for, postseason for Major League, which is coming up. And then also, if you're into any other sports like Formula One like we are, all that's on the Fanatics website as well. So just visit the special link in this episode, and that way you guys can get your gear and help support the podcast. And also, too, I mentioned this a couple of times, but we have Drew Code merch now. This is one of the phone cases I just bought. And it's actually really good quality. And then also one of the shirts I have as well. So you guys can go to our website, click on the link, and you guys will see all the merch that's available. And it's really good stuff, if I'm being honest. And I got Drew one for Father's Day. So I hope he enjoys it, because I have a matching one, so we can twinsies one day. But you guys can match with us as well if you guys go to the website. So
yes.
Other than that, that's pretty much it. Next week when we are back, we will be doing the southern region of the AFC and NFC divisions. So that'll be super fun. And then we'll have another fantasy draft of another wacky themed, which I cannot wait for, because who knows what it's going to be about. Maybe it's favorite Marvel movies. Maybe it's favorite sports movies. Maybe it's favorite 90 Day Fiance couples. Who the heck knows? So it'll be fun stuff, guys. So stay tuned for that. And again, go visit drewcodesportstalk.com for additional content. So I think that's it, man. So I bid you adieu, man.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us. Another shout out to Ken and King for joining us last week.
Sames. All right, guys. Take it easy. We'll see you guys next week.